Captain Elena Ramirez had handled just about everything in her 20 years with the department: undercover ops, citywide investigations, and commanding specialized tactical units. But she never expected to be battling her local HOA over a noise complaint. After a long career filled with late-night calls and city emergencies, she moved into Clearbrook Reserve, a suburban HOA community marketed as quiet, clean, and classically American. The neighborhood had everything she needed: safety, good schools for her niece, whom she'd taken custody of, and a large lot with a detached garage. What the real estate brochure hadn't mentioned? The HOA board was notoriously overzealous. Elena wasn't just a police captain. She also ran a mentorship nonprofit in her off-duty hours. It was called Forward Shield, and it offered youth leadership programs for at-risk teens, including workshops on conflict resolution, team building, and even simulated emergency response drills. Every Saturday afternoon, a handful of teens and volunteers would gather at her property, in the garage-turned-training studio, to run low-impact exercises, review training scenarios, and conduct physical fitness drills. It was all legal, permitted by zoning regulations, and conducted between 1 p.m. and 4 p.m. No sirens, no amplified speakers, just enthusiastic kids clapping, laughing, and occasionally shouting commands. Then came the envelope. Ms. Ramirez, your property has generated multiple complaints regarding excessive noise related to business operations. Per HOA bylaw 3.9b, any non-residential activity causing a disturbance is subject to fines. Effective immediately, a $100 daily penalty will be assessed unless you cease operations. Elena blinked. She'd heard louder sounds coming from weekend birthday parties across the street. The kids weren't blasting music or revving engines. They were learning how to lead, speak confidently, and protect one another. She called the HOA president, Harold Kingsley, a man with a reputation for enforcing rules to the letter. "Captain Ramirez," he said flatly, "we've had complaints about shouting, running drills, loud groups. This is a quiet community." "Harold, I understand the concern," she replied, her tone calm but firm, "but the activities are fully permitted. I have a certificate of occupancy for dual-use zoning, the garage is sound insulated, and the local precinct even endorsed the program." "Well, I don't care if it's a SWAT team. It violates our perception of peace and quiet." That was the wrong thing to say. Elena didn't argue. She got organized. She compiled her zoning approvals, nonprofit registration, and letters of support from the city's Office of Youth Services and the Chief of Police. She included testimonials from parents whose kids had turned their lives around because of Forward Shield. Then she made one call to the city compliance officer, who confirmed, in writing, that her setup was legal and that HOA rules could not override lawful land use granted by the city. Still, the HOA persisted, issuing escalating fines. So Elena requested a hearing at the next HOA board meeting and showed up in full uniform. "Let me be clear," she began. "What you're calling a disturbance is a group of young people learning discipline, respect, and leadership in a world that often offers them the opposite." She paused, letting the silence settle. "I've led multi-agency task forces. I've stood between danger and this city's families. I run this program to prevent the very kind of youth crime your insurance policies worry about. And if you find me for that, you're not just fighting noise, you're fighting progress." The room shifted. Several residents murmured in agreement. A board member leaned in and whispered something to Harold, who sat with arms crossed but visibly rattled. Within the week, the fines were revoked. The bylaw was amended to allow youth-oriented nonprofit activity within specific hours, and Elena received a handwritten apology signed by all 5 board members. Today, the Saturday sessions continue, with neighbors sometimes dropping off water, snacks, and even volunteering to help. Forward Shield now has a waiting list, and no one's complained about the noise since.